I'm duly impressed. Well, not by yours. Good.
There seems to be a problem with the link, so some people are joining late by using ID. So we'll give them a few more minutes. Maybe this is successful. Okay, people are getting in now.
Oh, that's what that, you're hearing all the people getting on. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Oh, yeah, we can see down in the corner,
Yeah.
it says 10.
Oh, good.
So that's translating what we're saying.
Yes, we have to have closed caption on at all times.
Do you always do that?
I don't normally, when I do it from the link, it automatically launches, but today I had to choose.
And when you do it, when you're doing it at home, you can't see your name, it doesn't show the words.
You have to select the
I
option.
see it.
It tells you
I shut it off.
that
I
it's been
do.
enabled.
There's no public
Yeah.
participation.
Yeah, right. No,
Jennifer, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you're aware that the sound is on or it has been. on.
Yes. We haven't started the meeting because people are still joining. There's a problem with the link. So people are still joining. So we actually have not opened the meeting yet.
And this doesn't allow you to see who's on either, unlike a home computer.
I can see by scrolling through the list on a different screen,
Gotcha.
but on the home screen, I cannot
Okay.
tell who's on. All right, Chris is on, Linda Ireland is joined. Somebody does not have their iPad muted. All right, I think we've probably waited long enough. All right, good evening. I'd like to open the meeting of the Wakefield Conservation Commission for May 23rd. Tonight is a discussion, DEP 313620, 100 Hemlock Road, Northeast Metro Regional Vocational School. The intent of tonight is discussion of the notice of intent, stormwater management report, and any other documents related to Northeast Metro Tech. Discussion of the Wetlands Protection Act, implementing regulations and any applicable policies, a potential vote to approve or deny in order of conditions, and potential discussion of conditions. That is the agenda for tonight. First thing tonight is roll call. Not quite sure how this works in person since I can see everybody, but I don't know that I actually have to do that roll call the way I normally
They've
do.
noted it.
So,
Everybody.
yeah, just for the record,
So she can record.
yeah, so for the record, Paul is not here. Paul, one of the guests is not here. He's traveling. The rest of the members are here. All right. All right, so we think really the best way to approach this is to discuss, the resource areas one by one in sequential order. And, what the wetland types are, the characterizations, existing conditions, what activities will be occurring in the buffer zone. Will they or will they not potentially have an impact on the resource areas? And then, what could be done to potentially mitigate those impacts that we may be seeing or thinking of. Any questions before we start? Just for the audience, so this is a discussion, so there will be no questions asked, no comments provided. Do not raise any hands. It's a discussion just among the commission. And with that said, we'll take it off here. All right. So we start at wetland 1, BVW. Rebecca did a nice job of characterizing the resource areas. I don't know if anybody has a question where wetland 1 is, closest to Farm Street. It's the largest of the resource areas. And again, we'll be discussing the resource areas and as our jurisdiction applies to those resource areas.
Close? Whatever one to get you guys started. So here we are.
All right, so I will read the description that has been provided here for wetland 1. Existing conditions, wetland 1, the largest on-site wetland, is characterized as forested red maple swamp. Steep slopes and ledge outcrops are located to the south of wetland 1. The upland area is white pine and oak forest. This wetland receives water overland diffused from upland areas on site, as well as from a seasonal unconfined peripheral stream water pattern that flows from wetland 4 through wetland 3, overland towards the eastern edge of wetland 1. A portion of the buffer zone includes Farm Street, which is located off-site. And the on-site existing conditions, 1.93 acres of forested wetlands and 3.15 acres of forested upland buffer zone. Everybody see it on the map, on the drawing? Do we have a scale here?
Yeah.
Okay. Architectural or engineering? Or both?
Yeah, right.
I have architectural.
What do we need over there? Okay. All right, so the activities proposed, the work within the buffer zone includes both temporary and permanent activities associated with construction of the access road, sidewalk, lighting, stormwater, management system, invasive species management. Clearing and grubbing, including tree removal, will occur within the entire limit of work, except the area specifically designated for invasive species removal. It is proposed to remove invasive trees, something we definitely want to talk about. Ledge removal, potential blasting will be located near the intersection of Farm Street and the new access road. The driveway will be the primary access during the construction of the site to limit disruption to existing schools. Infiltration system will be installed under the permanent access road along with 3 level spreaders. So there are some buffer zone alterations proposed. Total buffer zone of wetland 1 is 139,000 square feet. Let's see, almost 43,000 square feet of buffer zone. 2,100 square feet within a 25-foot. 28 square feet within a 25-foot is driveway, sidewalk. 2,100 square feet within 25 is level spreaders, riprap slope, invasive species management. It's about 18,000 square feet of driveway within the buffer zone. And a total of 18,000 square feet of new impervious area within the buffer zone. The remaining alteration in the buffer zone is considered pervious and includes riprap slopes, level spreaders, grading, and invasive species management area. So the first question is, does the proposed project contribute to the BVW's ability to protect the interests? So that's the question that needs to be thought of and discussed.
So just to clarify, 30% of the existing buffer zone would be altered, right?
Yes. About 43,000 square feet of the 139.
So they included a nice graphic in NOI when they had the buffer zone takeoff. So they had two things that I thought were really good in there. They had the picture that shows the wetland itself, the dark gray is the 25, the lighter gray is the 100. And then with their proposed work, they're showing the impervious roadway. And then the yellow, it's hard for me to see upside down, but I'm pretty sure is areas within the limit of work that are pervious. So be it the, like this is invasive species management, I think that area here, and then they're gonna have some grading that will occur in here. So all of this area is their 100-foot buffer zone. And like I said, this is the 25 and this is their proposed work. I think this is probably easiest to try to look through when looking at that one. So this is number 1. Let me know if you guys need it bigger or something else.
You know, you can actually share that, I believe.
To make it bigger up there?
Yeah,
Sure.
If you log on, right, to the website,
she is. You're
log
logged.
on?
No, this,
I don't think so.
Oh, I thought you were.
No,
Oh, all right, never mind.
I can, if you
think you
prefer it
should.
that way. Yeah, let me do it that way.
I think that would be helpful to see it
Okay.
on the massive
All right.
TV we have. So again, this is the largest of the wetlands. It's also the closest to Farm Street. And this is the one that drains out near June Circle.
Computers.
I might need to adjust the sharing.
Is it looking for HDMI cable?
Yeah, it does say that you can plug HDMI directly into the device. I don't have the normal share options that I would typically see. Let me try something else. No. I think you may have to plug an HDMI directly into the
Haven't found
TV.
a plug to plug in?
You want to plug your laptop right into the HDMI? Do you have an HDMI?
I don't
Would that go in through the Zoom though, or just the TV?
probably.
Is that connected or
Oh,
no?
it's not connected.
It looks really good though, but
Yeah, I'm not, I need a junior high school relative to hook up my
Oh,
PC.
yeah.
My PC
Has
on.
an HDMI.
Port, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah,
there's a,
that's HDMI and. Yeah, I think so.
I should try to get untangled for you. So pull out.
There's one under here.
Is it possible that it's not, that it's right on one of those, it's on the table?
there's a speakers, no?
Yeah,
Recording is.
You mean this table?
Recording is your
Either one, either that unit or.
Someone's not muted.
Yeah, that's not good. You have feedback from,
That's me.
yeah. Oh, I know.
That's muted. No, looks like everyone's. Oh, no, it's not. There is no mute option.
no.
I'm not touching it.
All right, so I'm on there. If you allow me to screen share it.
That's what I'm looking for. Wait a minute.
I didn't realize we were gonna put you to work.
I wish I could help. I see I see an HDMI there, but I couldn't quite plug it in.
That is also when I tried that.
This is what I need. Which is my supposed to.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what Rebecca had.
Yeah, I don't have a way to.
It's right there. What?
I gotta put my glasses on.
Can you see the? Do you mind?
Oh, yeah. Is it going? You sure that's the right one?
I'm guessing.
Oh.
We'd have to search for it.
Should have asked for the town's IT specialist to be here with us.
That'd be sweet.
It's like,
It's open.
Yeah, I don't have the same options on this console that I would on a
I
laptop.
know, yeah.
I don't see that. It's there.
No.
Doesn't feel that way.
There's an HDMI port right here. Oh. Why don't you try that?
There.
No.
Off property, maybe?
Yeah.
Oh, is that? Yeah.
Okay, see if that helps. That do anything?
Yep, so,
It's added that. I think.
Is this where we find out that laptop doesn't have HDMI?
Sit right over there, there's enough space to do that. There you go, let's just sit right in that spot.
Well, let's see, hang on.
I'll be downstairs.
I'll go, I'm gonna go back.
I'm not sure this is functioning yet.
That's Gillette, seeing myself on the jumbotron.
Do you have any prompts on your laptop at all?
Nada.
Is there an option for you to share screen?
Can you click on that? Use laptop with HDMI.
Yay,
Yes, of course.
that's teamwork.
Right here, and I'll lead out to you.
Yeah, you got like a 20-foot cord there.
Sit wherever you want.
You go back, yeah.
This
I
is,
feel like that should just be plugged in all the time.
Look at that HDMI cable.
look at that. You guys don't back up though.
We should fish it right around.
My throat.
Have a portable desk. Right?
Do me a favor.
Kind of impressed right now. Well, there you go.
Look at that, huh? All right.
Can you make that bigger?
Perhaps. I think you guys are gonna see how behind I am at the electronic portion here. You happy with that?
Yeah, that seems good.
Thank you for that. I'll let
It's
you-
like a great visual.
It is. So
So everything the dark gray is 25?
that's, yep,
And everything, the whole thing is 100, okay.
right. And then you have, I mean, as indicated, and I think the turquoise is your roadway and sidewalk. And then your yellow is some of your stormwater, the level spreaders and some of your grading, that type of thing.
And do we have the distance, the nearest distance from the road to the,
Well, you can see where it says 28 square feet impervious. I think that's just the little clip of the road entering into that 25 no disturb, or 25 buffer zone there.
okay,
So they're giving you there the area of within the 25 feet for impervious.
so
So that
that's,
roadway would be
right.
at the 25 mark there.
and the whole buffer zone is 42,000.
139,000 for the total buffer
That-
zone.
Yeah,
The
of the whole wetland area, and then there's those
43,000.
calculations at the end of this document in a spreadsheet. They gave the total of the whole wetland and then the total within their limit of work, and then it was broken down. Existing and proposed. I could show you the spreadsheet as well, but. And so that's where these numbers come from.
I see.
Any questions on that Rebecca hasn't clarified?
Is that middle level spreader there touching into the wetlands at all? Or is that just within the 25?
That's in the 25, I don't think anything's touching into the, there's no work within the
You
wetland.
can see it right here. You can come on this side if you're. There's one right.
Just out of it.
So your wetland flags there. And so what they did was they took like the yellow is what is this, almost like where this scallop line is, would be equal to the line of the yellow over there. So this is some of the impervious here. That's marked out in the light yellow. It does come out, this is that invasive species management area here. So that's why it's marked off as an alteration of the buffer zone, but pervious in this section there.
And the species identified as invasive in there?
I don't know if it's, I don't remember.
Norway maple?
Specifically, in I think at some point it talked about the invasive species being Norway maple, and I know there was a little bittersweet somewhere. Do you recall, Matt, specifically what was in there?
Beyond that, I don't.
Do you remember those two? Me too. I can try to remember where it is located, but there's a lot of documents. So I don't know off the top of my head which specific, other than those two, were listed out. I can get you that. There's the invasive species management plan. Would you like me to look at that?
Yeah, please.
Report.
Jim, the ledge removal, how close is that to the
The best
PVW?
place to see that
Everything's
is
on the
the
plan.
landscape plan. Go backwards.
we get the scale right there and you can see the ledge.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, so we have,
So you want the distance from the
Yeah,
ledge to
to the,
the BBW?
yes,
From,
From here?
well, it'd be from like on this edge would be the closest, right?
yeah,
What you want?
yeah, please.
Let's see the scale on this. 20. 20. So this is is this scallop line the limit of work?
The limit of work is the scallop line. Yeah, and this is the BBW. Yes, yes.
Okay, so you wanna know the distance from here to the BBW? Bob?
Yeah, the closest point.
It's gonna vary.
oh, you have it too.
Yeah, the closest point.
You want
That's the
us
closest point.
Buckthorn?
Okay.
About here, about 56 feet,
On roads, yep.
maybe.
All right, so some of those invasives are actually trees.
So you're about 56 feet.
50 is the closest point from ledge removal.
I see there from, that looks like the closest.
You did it right here, right?
Yeah, here's the
So which
BBW
landscape plan
line,
are you talking about?
right, I went to that
Yeah,
point.
I think that's the
That's
closest.
about closest. Say 60 feet.
Okay, so ledge, so blasting 55,
Distance away
50,
from- Yeah, right.
60. Okay, about 60 feet from the wetland.
Does
Yeah.
the 21 or 2,200 square feet
I
of
think it's
alteration
close, but
within the
people
buffer
know.
zone, is that based on the limit of work
I hate to
lines?
reach past you.
Or is that based on?
Yes,
Um,
so those are from the, I'll show you, let me show you.
About 62.
Okay,
It's easier for me to show you.
Yeah, you got cursor, control up there. You can,
You guys. Right, hold on.
Cursor control over there.
It's good to embrace your weaknesses.
I'm gonna find you.
Bear with me, I can't get to it on my screen. All right, here we go. I also work on 3 different kinds of computers going back and forth, so I'm always like doing different things. So here's the table that they.
Can you, oh, there we go, perfect.
Okay, so here's the table. So the first column, if you're just going down that darker orange, is the total buffer zone of the whole wetland, and then the next one is there within the limit of work. So that's really what you're more concerned with.
And that's 2172, I see.
So I will point out that this is from the NOI, and at the time, the building was still there. When those well, I'll get to that, sorry, I'm jumping. So then you move across and they have the existing, and they've broken it between the 0 and 25 and then the 25 to 100. And so that's where these list of numbers come from. So the new impervious area within the 25 feet is the 28 square feet. You can see that in the middle column top up there.
Yep.
Okay. So that's where all those numbers come from. And for the most part, I think everything on this is the same, with the exception of for Wetland Series 3, all the way bottom right, it says 1977, that building is not there anymore. Or is not part of the project, I guess that's what I say it. So maybe just to like kind of get this rolling along, as Bob said, we'll go through each wetland area and talk about what activity is actually happening, and whether or not you think the activity has the potential to alter the buffer zone such that it would, the BVW would no longer be able to, so we're gonna assume it's significant for all the interests and it would no longer be able to be significant.
Should we back up, just look at how we're approaching this in general?
Sure.
That the applicant has the burden of proving that the area is not significant to any of the interests identified in the act. And if there's work that's within the actual areas protected by the act, that they comply with performance standards, or that if it's in the buffer zone, as this is, that it will contribute to the protection of the act, of the interests in the act. And that because they didn't present any information that it would rebut, that it wouldn't be significant to the act, to the interest of the act, we have to assume that all of the interests of the act apply.
Yeah,
Right.
so,
anyway.
right, so you have BBW and there's a certain, the interests are listed in the preamble, and the presumption is that that BBW is significant to all of those interests unless information is provided in a written statement either by the applicant, or the decision can be made by the commission, all in writing, to suggest or provide evidence that that particular wetland does not isn't significant for that particular interest. So I don't believe that we have that, so we're gonna operate under the assumption that each wetland resource area is significant for all of the interests that are applicable for that resource area, they're not all applicable.
As listed in the regs, right?
Right, and so I've got the preamble right here. I can just state pretty much what Rebecca just said, but right from the act. Bordering vegetated wetlands are likely to be significant to public or private water supply, to groundwater supply, to flood control, to storm damage prevention, to prevention of pollution, to the protection of fisheries, and to wildlife habitat. So that's the first paragraph, the preamble for BVW, which includes wet meadows, marshes, swamps, bogs, all of those types of resource areas. So, some of the activities, we know there'll be clear cutting of trees coming through the roadway area.
Maybe do one activity at a time, and then like pick one thing, and then go through your short-term construction related, and then go through your long-term project implementation, and then decide whether or not you think that there are any potential impacts to the wetland. The portion is only buffer zone, so it's whether or not work in the buffer zone would impact the wetland's ability to provide its function. So you can go through it. I've taken activity, both short and long term, maybe one at a time. If you want to do, like I think you just said, clearing trees, if you want to start there.
Yeah,
Maybe just go through that whole process and see where you end up, and then what type of mitigation is offered, and then what kind of conditions you can write to alleviate any concerns that you have. So what would if there is one, okay, so how can you condition it so that whatever interest that you feel needs to be protected or hasn't been, can be?
makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
So the first step would be clearing of trees for any project of this nature, right? They can't do anything until those trees for that roadway are cleared. And we're talking about, the first wetland BVW area. So the clearing of those trees around that wetland it will result in canopy loss. No doubt about that.
And I'd like to point out, that's the southern end of the,
Correct.
all along the southern, it goes parallel to the southern end of the wetland.
Correct. So those trees are providing shade directly
Right.
to,
Where canopy is the most important.
So that will lead to an increase in the temperature of the,
you could have a thermal impact to the wetland and the, vegetation and or species that are in that wetland as a result of the thermal impact.
and therefore it would negatively affect the BVW.
Yes. Yeah, under that scenario, yes.
Yeah, everything has to relate back to the wetland and whether or not, even the work in the buffer zone, it has to relate back to it, the buffer zone is there to ensure that the wetland remains significant or its
So-
interest and can
So,
still
for
function.
example, with soil level spreaders, even though that's not, you're saying it's pervious when it's done, that's why.
Yes.
But that means all the trees have to be taken out, right?
Yes, because
And
there's,
so the trees that'll be taken out, that goes, there's, the areas where the level spreaders are right against the wetland. So I think you can assume that there's not gonna be any canopy protection, you know, where the two level spreaders are located.
let's see if I can,
Going back
I
to
have
that.
another good picture.
And I guess I have some concern about,
Wait, how come this one didn't? Oh, how come it didn't change? Do I have to do something different?
You want to share something different?
Yes.
So you'll have to select whatever it is you want to share.
Got it, thank you.
So yeah, remember, a project shall not result in the impairment of the wetland's capacity to provide wildlife habitat.
Well, if you're removing the canopy and raising the temperature, now your amphibians that are benefiting from that wildlife habitat are losing out on that.
Yeah, correct.
So that would
Definitely
be,
compromised.
yeah, it would be the wetland, you would focus on, and if that's the case, you would focus on whether or not you feel that that activity will result in alteration of the wetland's function of providing wildlife habitat. See what I mean? It's not a protection of amphibians, it's protection of the wetland's ability to provide
Provide for the-
habitat if they're
Right.
habitat amphibians. Does that make sense?
That is.
Yeah, I mean, canopy loss could also result in a drop in water level, more evaporation.
Right.
Does that help? Do you guys think that, picture
yes,
is?
that's a very helpful picture.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that too.
What is the existing steep slopes to be flattened? Is that uneven blasting
I
Yeah,
think
that's
that area's-
ledge.
Yeah,
ledge?
Yeah.
So
You can actually see the grades.
Jim, doesn't it, the ledge, you said the ledge was 50, well, forget it, now we're getting at trees. We're talking about.
Yeah, we're still talking about the
We're still talking
canopy.
about the trees.
Yeah.
And so some of the concerns I have about trees also is that the trees, that the limit of work, if the extent there's trees that are right next to the limit of work, but in the 25-foot buffer zone, the root systems are gonna be compromised. I mean, I guess my point is, to the extent that there's mature trees, I am concerned that the work and the,
That are not, that, you mean that are not being cleared, the,
that are not being
right, the
cleared.
remaining trees
The
will be
remaining
affected. Right.
trees that we would be counting on to provide,
Yeah, all those.
to provide whatever canopy can, to the extent there can be some canopy. I think those trees are, those root systems are gonna take a beating as a result of the construction. So if there's, or I guess what I would say would be that, how close can you do construction to a tree? This kind of construction and not compromise the root system of a mature tree.
Especially depending on how close the other trees are to it and if its root structure is intertwined with that other one.
There's also shade potentially being provided by the ledge outcropping. I forget how tall that is, but that is also providing shade at certain times of the day too, in addition to the tree canopy. So we have potential thermal impact to due to loss of canopy to the resource area. That could impact not only the vegetation, but the aquatic species there. Could also result in loss of the wetland, evaporation, lower water levels. The water budget could be compromised to that wetland as a potential impact due to loss of canopy. Any other potential impacts?
Well, what I would do next is look at the mitigation that was offered, and then lastly, other conditions that you can apply to mitigate for the loss of canopy.
So there is a proposed planting plan along the road in some locations. But to replace a, whatever, 50-foot oak or pine or whatever, how many years would that take to get there? 20, I don't know, 30?
200, I keep thinking about 200. Was it about 200 trees along the roadway that had to come out?
Yeah.
Am I finding that out?
No, I've got that number written down here too. A large oak can hold 100 gallons of water
Yeah,
a day.
yeah.
Where'd you get that? 200 trees, you said, along the roadway?
Yeah, I thought that's what I remember it to be. Might be the other side, you know what? That's probably to the,
For what?
that's, I think it's far where they want to.
Because we did go out there with
Treatment,
LEC, I believe it was
Yeah.
you and I, and they looked at trying to work their limit of
Yeah.
work line around some of the existing big trees.
Mhm.
Wouldn't be to your point, because you're talking like that would be something a little bit different.
Mhm.
However, I don't recall ever seeing, I know we went out there and they I think Dan marked them out,
They had flagged them. with
Yeah.
different color ribbons,
just try to save some,
right.
like just try to work around it a little bit so that we could maintain that. Do you recall seeing any type of plan that showed the manipulating the limit of work line to keep any of the existing larger trees? I know we
I
talked
remember the
about it.
discussion, but I
Yeah, I
don't
do too.
remember plans.
I don't
that
remember seeing
specified
it. But again, that would, if worked, you guys could make that your condition. You could say something like the limit of work line has to go out and field verify it first, has to be, prior to construction.
Field verify the location of the trees or the.
Yeah, well, you
location of
would
the ones
say,
that-
you could say something like, the limit of work line, needs to work around some of the trees that we had previously
Yeah.
identified, although I'm not really sure, I'd have to figure out if that was true or not, but work around some of the larger trees
Yeah.
in consultation with
Right.
a commission member or an
Right.
agent or Matt or whomever.
Of course, they moved the the road for just that reason, to avoid the trees. Right?
You're saying we're only a wetland one now?
Yeah, on
Yeah,
one,
okay.
one.
I thought they moved the road in order to avoid,
Yeah, I think they
the
originally
wetland.
proposed some wetland impacts.
It was to
Takes
give a little
another
more
day.
buffer.
Yeah.
What's that?
It was to give a little more buffer,
Right,
but the result is more blasting on the other side.
yeah.
I mean, if 200 trees is right, that's 20,000 gallons of water a day.
I think I was thinking about the gas and light department where they wanted to do
Oh.
that system.
Different
That was-
project,
that-
right, right.
that-
All right, I'm sorry.
That I think was the.
Right, it's gas
Get
and
that out of my
Right.
notes.
Yeah, to get rid of that.
All right, I got rid of it.
But that water uptake
Yeah.
would not be
Yeah.
taken up during construction.
Yeah.
Again, if it's 200, I'm not sure the number now, but that's 20,000 gallons potentially for a large oak. You could end up adding additional water to wetland 3 over the budget.
The thing is, it's the potential to change a volume of water that would normally be
Correct. You would be
received by the trees.
either way, either losing the trees and creating the thermal impact could be causing more evaporation and dropping the water level, but also you could be adding more water by losing all that uptake from the trees. Either way, it would be an alteration in that condition.
When the leaves fall in the winter, they're providing habitat for.
The ground cover,
And the acorns that produce, that's food for the, I don't know how you can.
well, I mean, some of that stuff's going right into the wetland.
You are determining whether or not their activities in the buffer zone are going to negatively impact the wetland's ability to provide its function. That's what, we're all about the wetland.
Right.
So if their proposed activity in the buffer zone does not, then it doesn't. If it, you know what I mean? And if it does, then
And also that's to protect the ability of the BVW to protect all those interests. I mean, that's another way of saying, slightly different way of saying the same thing.
always goes back to that. Everything has to go back to that. So, you know, for instance, I think in the preamble, it talks about, plant composition and structure, right? I think that's in there, right?
Yeah,
That's-
plants and soils of BVWs remove or detain sediments, nutrients such as nitrogen and phosphorus, and toxic substances such as heavy metal compounds that occur in runoff and flood. So the trees are taking up, you know, in addition to the water, whatever's in the water.
Right.
Some nutrients and toxic substances are detained for years in plant root systems or in the soils. Others are held by plants during the growing season and released as the plants decay in the fall and winter. Yeah, there's a whole thing in the preamble about groundwater discharges to the surface and, surface water discharges to groundwater. So the profusion of vegetation in BVWs act to slow down and reduce the passage of floodwaters during periods of peak flows by providing temporary flood storage and by facilitating water removal through evaporation and transpiration, which is the two things we just talked about, water uptake, and, pollution uptake. This process reduces downstream flood crests and resulting damage to private and public property. During dry periods, water retained in BVWs is essential to the maintenance of base flow levels in rivers and streams, which in turn is important to the protection of water quality and water supplies.
I think the loss of canopy is also the loss of leaves, which is also gonna be the habitat, create the habitat for amphibians in the area. So you lose trees, you lose all that goes with it.
So we did briefly talk about habitat. So again, right from the preamble, wetland vegetation supports a wide variety of insects, reptiles, amphibians, small mammals and birds, which are a source of food for important game fish. Don't know that we have any game fish there, but the vegetation is certainly supporting, insects, reptiles, amphibians, small mammals and birds.
But keep in mind, that vegetation they're talking about is the wetland vegetation.
Correct.
Not buffer zone.
Correct, but an alteration to the buffer can result in,
Can you take
That's
a
the
point
leap,
to
that's
point?
the leap
Yes.
you need to make,
Yes.
if that's what you're gonna do.
Rebecca, can you take
Yes.
a point to point, say there's a tree, goes away, you take it. Now this isn't happening, this isn't happening in the wetland, just as an
Okay.
example.
So I suppose
So
an
we could draw a
example
line.
could be if you, and Matt, jump in anytime, if you removed, if it was previously a shaded area and you remove all the trees and you open it up to sunlight, right?
Right.
You would potentially have a different species that would grow because you've now kind of changed that environment. As we
Different
know, there are
environment.
shade plants, there are sun plants,
Different
right? Whatever.
environment in the wetland.
Different environment in the wetlands, so you would have a change of wetland plants perhaps.
Less water,
That
different
change of
water.
wetland plants could potentially impact the wetland's ability to provide habitat. I mean, that's just how you would
Yep.
make those stepping stones. I'm not saying that example applies here, I'm just saying that would be an example of how you get from the buffer zone to an interest.
right, and
Now,
those-
do you have any other good examples of, or anything that you think?
No, I think that's reasonable. I think, you need to try to think about published examples so that you can actually cite something.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's important. And unfortunately, that's hard to come by, that those kind of direct
Yeah.
threaded links.
Can you make those links without citations or some pretty obvious where you don't have trees, you don't have shade, you have more water, those are all knowns without having to look it up, right? Bob just said, uptake of water, I mean, that's a known, there's no denying that. You don't have to look that up.
nutrient uptake.
There's no, shade.
But if you lose the nutrient uptake, let's talk about that for a second. So the root system perhaps is, filtering biologically, chemically, physically, right? So if you remove the root zone that performs those functions in the buffer zone, how does that change the wetland's ability to do its job? We always have to keep going
Right.
all the way down those stepping stones.
So that plant community or tree community could be acting as a filter of anything coming off as far as uptake of those toxins, nutrients, anything coming off.
Preventing it going into the wetland.
Correct.
Impacting the wetland.
Correct.
So without that buffer, without that uptake, something would be
You're losing that.
discharged into the wetlands, which would potentially alter the wetland, impact the wetland.
Correct.
And that's not there.
You're losing that line of defense potentially. Yeah. Yeah, the buffer in this case is a line of defense for the wetland in a few different ways. I had a nice thing about buffer zone somewhere here, and I don't know where it is right now, but any other discussion about canopy or?
So are there any conditions that you can apply to the project to, in the event that you
Yeah,
see a potential for an impact? What condition can you write
I mean,
to?
yeah, you'd have to plant mature trees to offset anything that came down. Or you'd have to move the project further away, which means more blasting. And you are, well, are you getting close to the property line there?
The project is what's been presented to us. And-
Right, but you could
and we-
condition-
and certainly, we were told that that's the farthest they could move it away from the wetland. We were absolutely told that.
I mean, you can condition almost anything, but is it reasonable and is it plausible to expect it? So really, it's difficult in that case, I'm thinking
Right.
to condition the impact of that in this particular wetland. Yeah, but short of planting mature trees or moving the road, yeah, I'm not sure what else could be done there. Anybody else?
Do you want to move on to another topic besides tree canopy?
Yeah,
Let's
we get
talk about,
the blasting right there, which would be,
Okay,
the next step after the trees would be cleared.
One thing I would like to talk about was, at what point it's okay, but, I want to talk about the runoff coming down the hill.
Yeah,
Towards the wetland, because that to me is.
Okay, that's-
important
Yep.
topic.
agreed.
So what I've found is that at the Rotary, they've run constant elevation around the Rotary, okay? And we're adding curbing in here to run along this edge. And so what's happening is the water that comes down from Saugus runs along this curve and comes down and goes into the first set of catch basins they have, which is right here. And then it goes through the treatment chamber and then directly into,
it goes down to that there.
It goes to.
am I on the wrong one?
No, you're right, you're right.
It goes here.
This one is just
And then
from the
this
bottom of
goes
the
up.
lid.
And then,
Yep, so
It
and
comes
then-
in here, yep, enters
So
there.
it goes directly into, really, it doesn't have any treatment. I know that system does treat floatables and solids, but it does not treat
So,
soluble pollutants.
so the water coming down Farm Street is going to make its way into the driveway a certain distance, is what you're saying, from that rotary, right? It's gonna turn in, the water coming down Farm Street from Saugus
Right.
is gonna actually make its way into the driveway.
It's actually designed to make that.
And it's because of the topography of
You can see it's 135.
Right.
And it's 135 all around now. It's 134 down here, so it's coming around the curve. I'm going to show you some elevations up here as well. So it is coming down the curve line. And it is meant to be directed into those catch basins.
Rebecca, can you share that?
Yeah, it's
You bet.
136 here and 137 over here.
Be a lot easier to see up here.
Just bear with me. While I'm pulling that up, maybe we can talk specifically about, what that drainage down farm through the roundabout and into that system means? Like, what is it that,
You'd be getting anything in the road, sand, salt, or whatever is used on Farm Street.
Whatever Farm Street is using for controlling, snow and ice, that's gonna be going down, which is just the opposite of what they were trying to do, was this whole area, we were trying to not put any
Right.
chlorides in there.
We can't condition what's going on in Farm Street. We can't control
No.
that as part of the project, so.
Well, you could control it if you picked them up, if you put some catch basins up
No, I'm
here.
saying,
Yeah, but that's
yeah,
not-
We can't control it.
That's off the property.
Comes and
Oh.
we can't do anything about it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's off the property, but it's still potentially causing an impact.
Right, it's more.
At what point does that road start to go up? Where's the low point, Jimmy?
The low point's down here. This is up higher over here.
Right, but on the driveway,
136, 135, 134, 33,
Right.
32,
and then it starts going up?
Sorry
1.
where the catch basins
Here.
are.
Okay,
That's 131, there's 132.
Right.
so a catch
Going
basin.
down, and then it starts to come back up here.
Yep, so the very first catch basin after the island
Right.
would be taking that flow.
So not only flow from the driveway, but flow from the.
Yep. So no matter what the applicant is doing on the driveway, they're gonna be getting water from Farm Street. Here it is.
There we go. Good job.
you sound shocked.
We knew we could do it,
Can you
Rebecca.
zoom in on it?
Oh, come on.
One thing at a time.
I know what Ken and I have to go through.
Very stressful.
No kidding.
I had to put my glasses on and off to get on with that.
So it is like 50 people there waiting.
Teresa, could I get my piece?
Yes, of course, I'm sorry.
I only got one piece of
This
paper.
I'm sorry, you want some more?
Drain.
I found my pad.
No.
Okay, so that's the screen you wanted.
Yep, perfect.
Oh,
See
okay.
the Q, WQS,
Okay, yeah.
and that's before it goes into the system.
All right, so yeah, Farm Street, 136, 135 at the roundabout, 134 at the driveway,
131 is.
133, 132, and yeah, 131 at the catch basin.
Oh, legal.
That's right.
That's just for you.
Okay.
You gotta come here.
All right, so. So all right, so what's the impact we're talking about here? We've got drainage coming down from farm and draining into the stormwater management
Yeah,
system.
untreated road.
Well, you can't call it untreated because
Well, it's going through a catch basin.
Yeah, no, it's gonna run into their stormwater management system.
right.
Which means it's gonna end up in the wetland, which is gonna change the composition of the water and its ability to.
True for the water quality structure and then.
Yeah,
Right,
and
we have here.
the idea there is that the water quality structure does not filter out soluble pollutants like calcium chloride.
Okay, so that's what we're targeting here.
That's what I think, yeah. I
Okay,
think
so
that's
you're
what you should-
concerned with, let me just make sure I have it correct. Whatever's used on Farm Street, for instance, likely salt during,
And how much is used.
how much,
Yeah.
during the winter, there could be salt used on farm, that the way the grades are, it's going to come down Farm Street when it melts, and then be washed down into the catch basins in this driveway, go into their stormwater management system, which will take care of most things, although I don't know if it's designed to grab that volume, I don't know, I'd have to ask Bill, but what you're concerned with here is that likely the use of salt, which will pass through the system, is going to be discharged at level spreader 1. And being that proximity to the wetland, you're anticipating that salt will make its way through the system to the level spreader and get discharged, I'm not sure exactly the distance, but relatively close to the BBW.
Very close, very little buffer between LS1 and the actual BBW.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you could
Yeah.
scale that
Because
off.
there-
It's right at the BBW. Right.
Because they're not using salt on the driveway.
Right.
So your concern is the salt coming in the site from outside,
From outside, right?
from that farm street.
Right.
Okay, got it.
Right, despite their best intentions, there's
Yes.
gonna be.
Right.
And is
And
that
if they,
salt-
if they have no
They're not
control
using
over it.
salt on
Right.
that location.
And all the
Is that
cars,
salt
trucks
that
and
they- that
buses
is
will bring
not-
it in the
that
tires too.
Under the
I'm sorry.
current configuration would not be doing the same thing?
Well, there's no driveway there now.
Oh, yeah. There's no drive.
No, but I mean, the road does go relatively close to the wetland.
Sure. So you're saying, hold on,
There's a discharge to it, direct discharge.
I see, okay, that's fine.
We don't know what that
It's more of a-
catch basin would look like in a storm event, different storm events either. You know, is it designed to handle that additional flow or not? You know, that might need to be a double catch basin or something.
Right, so where does the source, that level spreader one, where is the source of the water that's gonna go into that? That's I'd just like to understand, what are the various sources? Because that is, we know that whatever is going into that is discharging right adjacent to the wetland with no buffer zone, with literally no buffer zone,
So
or very
look
little
at-
buffer zone.
okay,
Look at level spreader one on the upper left hand.
Yeah, see the elevations?
Leave that alone. Now go a little bit further down and there's a Y. Everything captured from that Y, which is the catch basin and the manhole, travels down
Mhm.
to that large treatment chamber. Whatever goes through the treatment chamber gets discharged out of LS1, which is the one in the middle of the stream.
So here's your low point, 131 right here. So
That's-
you have
that's
flow
the
coming from
Y.
this direction, flow coming from this direction, going into that catch basin, traveling through the system.
There's also a little bit on the bottom right hand screen where there's another Y there, where there's a catch basin.
Mhm.
Yeah.
manhole that travels plan northwest into the big chamber. So everything between those two Ys gets captured. Well, I guess everything from Farm Street.
okay, but we're specifically talking just about the salt or that type of
Yeah.
unknown from farm because
Right.
the stormwater management system for their site
Right.
has been reviewed a ton by lots of people. We're now at the point of just the design, sizing, et cetera, of the stormwater management system is that we're good. It's good, you
Yeah,
know? So that's not the concern. The
No,
concern
and-
is
and-
Not from their
something
site.
outside entering and it
Right.
being soluble and discharging through the level spreader.
mhm.
Okay,
So
just clarify.
twofold though, right? It's the, whatever's entering that system and is it now sized appropriately to handle that additional volume?
I have to
Well,
assume
they
that's
did-
I have to
here.
assume that they did, right.
The Farm Street?
Yeah.
They
I
did
have to
say they
find-
were accounting for what was coming from the
Okay.
Saugus
Yeah.
side.
But
Yeah, I
at our
would think
last
that-
meeting, at our last meeting, David, I asked that question, that was my first question on the list that he went through.
Okay,
And he said they've already accounted for that water on Farm Street.
okay.
I would assume that too. The
When you say that
law-
it's been reviewed, if you say that the stormwater management system has been reviewed, I mean, Bill Renault was pretty clear that he was passing on, he was not passing on wetlands protection aspects of that.
We're talking about capacity of the system,
Okay.
and he did review that.
Right, so, yes, so he's looking at all of the calculations that will go along with sizing it, whether it's removing
I understand it.
all that. Now, that's where he ends. So it's designed perfectly, they have all of the input, they've agreed on what the input numbers are, they've agreed on all of that stuff.
But if
They've
salt
agreed
water
that
goes
the
into that.
rate is
Yeah.
reduced, they agree that the volume is input, they agree on all of that stuff. And that's where, their stormwater management ends. And then you would really only look at whether or not, really only that discharge point, whether or not you think that that has
Coming down.
an impact based on its
Coming down for, yeah, it's probably
location.
somewhat-
You're gonna assume though that
Because if it's a
that
short
system
section,
has
it might not
treated
be
the water
much of an impact.
so that
It's 100
it's
feet.
Whatever it's
Wow.
discharged.
treated
Yeah.
appropriately as all that's required. So the water getting to that level spreader is
I
treated
think
appropriately.
they could.
'Cause that's why they do it.
Problem.
Right.
So that's where it's.
I misinterpreted Bill's comment. I thought he's referring to a catch basin on Farm Street. and not this one. I interpreted Bill's comments totally different. I did not know that this is one that was in question. I thought it was one on Farm Street that was in question, that he was
This-
talking about.
No, Bill wasn't talking about what we're just talking about now, or the one that they were abandoning.
The one he was abandoning is what he was talking about.
Right. No, but I talked, no,
This ever, I don't know if this ever came up with him, did it?
no, but Dave Conroy told me that they had accounted for that water on Farm Street,
Going on to the driveway.
going onto the driveway.
Okay.
Well, he just didn't say that. I think he said they accounted for the water on Farm Street. And I assumed, I guess that. he was-
Yeah, I'm just not totally sure that's the case.
Yeah.
But it may be. It wasn't my interpretation. Either way, there's, whatever's on that road is coming up the driveway.
What are you looking for, Rebecca?
I was looking for the watershed maps that showed, I think it's this one. I mean, I would assume that all of the professional engineers who do stormwater
Yeah.
quite often would
Pick up on that.
pick up, yeah, basically.
On the volume of water, not on.
Picking up, you're saying that the contributing area, I mean, they went over that right in the beginning
Yeah.
a bunch of different times and, I think Bill commented about having them pick up designing it so that it went off the property line and including, their catchment areas or beyond their property, and they did that.
Yeah.
They drew those boundaries.
Oh. And how would that be preventable? You'd have to put some sort of berm and or like bump somewhere to
Right,
redirect the flow.
right.
They'd have to berm Farm Street and also change an elevation somewhere.
But
To prevent.
they'd have to berm it right across the whole roadway entrance.
But
Yeah, you'd almost have to have like a garage, a little bit higher than your driveway and,
I don't think that's gonna,
or the road elevation would have to be different.
but they could put in catch basins and catch it downhill. down Farm
along the
Street.
driveway, but on Farm Street, but we can't force
No,
the
no,
town to do
I
that.
know, I know.
Yeah, they'd have to put catch basins before the driveway
Right,
on the Saugus side of Farm Street.
Well, it gets tricky because they don't control that.
right.
Right.
And then you still couldn't empty that into their new system. You'd have to empty it into the Farm Street system.
Yeah,
I think that's.
You'd have to pipe it.
Connect it.
down Farm Street.
I think that's the reason why they didn't put one there.
That's probably why, yeah.
Which was hard.
That's right.
With a big rotary.
Yeah.
in the way.
All right, anything else regarding that? We could talk about blasting in that area. We already said it's
Did
what?
you guys, you may have done this already, and I missed, did you guys, because I was over there, did you discuss any potential, conditions? I understand we'll go over them again later.
Yeah, I mean, if,
I just wanted to.
the only thing I can think of is you'd have to, obviously the town would have to berm Farm Street. And you'd have to change an elevation somewhere to create a bump to prevent the water from back flowing in the driveway. Either the driveway would have to have some sort of change in elevation, or Farm Street would have to have.
Well, the Farm Street one, you can't do, because it's.
Correct, that's not a condition we would apply.
That's not,
But don't
Yeah.
forget, that's a whole nother project that they're gonna be reconfiguring that whole roadway system there. So there might be an opportunity to do that.
but not with this applicant.
No,
Right, that would be the town,
It's a-
that'd be the town.
no, that's true.
No, they would have to change the elevation of the road
Yeah,
and or put some sort of speed bump or type of rise somewhere to prevent that flow from coming in at a certain storm events. But again, what storm event do you design that for?
You also have to plan for much more severe and more frequent storms.
Right.
We have more flooding happening there, and we're already talking about taking out trees that are holding water, so now you've got even more water going in there. which again, we know that the stormwater system is accounting for more, the wetlands may be taking on more now.
Yeah, you'd have to certainly raise elevation at the end or create a huge like speed bump type effect to block that flow. Don't know what that would look like.
Anything that could potentially raise the water level in the wetland would be potentially very damaging to the wetland, I would assume.
Anything that would what?
Potentially raise the water level.
Raise or lower is an alteration.
Right.
Well, yes.
I don't think they particularly want to raise because they've done a lot of investigatory work into
Well, no, but
what's gonna happen downstream for those folks that flood.
You can budget, right? You already designed it now.
But that loss of canopy, like I said, if it's 200 trees at 20,000 gallons potentially, that is gonna be in that wetland that wasn't there before.
Well,
Like a swimming pool, big swimming pool.
Yeah.
the point that I'm making though is that since we're getting to the any changes to the groundwater.
Are we on to blasting?
I think so.
Okay.
So all I wanted to do was segue that any changes to the groundwater caused by blasting. You know, yeah, I don't know if your point, Bob, is that that's taken into account in the calculations. I don't think it is.
Well, that's not known, that's gonna.
But the point is that if it, yeah, it's unknown whether it will happen, but it's not unforeseeable. Right. I mean, can we talk about some of the, some of the things that were discussed, that are specifically related to, some of the wasn't some of the reports on the blasting, they specifically cautioned that groundwater is very close to the surface, as a result of the, I don't know if it's on this wetland though.
Well, let's just stick to wetland one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can
Where's the
get,
closest blasting area to wetland one?
the ledge across the other side of the driveway,
So.
50, 60 feet away.
Not under the road.
Well, we don't know if it's
Under the
any
road.
blasting under the road, because we never talked about it.
I mean, if you looked at the original road layout versus the proposed, you can kind of get a feel.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we first started this thing, I know we asked about blasting on the roadway for utilities, and they were gonna try not to.
For utilities,
Yeah, because there's
Yeah.
water, sewer, there's
yeah.
probably gas going up there, electricity, it's all going down the road. So, I don't know if there's ledge there or not, but that ledge would be closer to whatever permanent trees are gonna be there after they move what's necessary.
Rebecca, you have that slide that shows the possible blasting areas.
you betcha. I'm just looking for it now.
There's a drawing in here that might have a profile of the road.
Are we more concerned about under the road than above and next to, or?
I think both.
There it is.
I mean, blasting in any sensitive area can compromise a number of things. We talked about the root structure, vegetation, hydrology. Blasting can impact hydrology, the groundwater.
I'm just thinking if it's below the ground, it's more likely to have an effect, rather than above ground slope that gets chipped away.
Oh, good.
So can they avoid blasting under the road? Or they just chip under the road?
So you're saying to that triangled area, so that's the area they have identified as ledge removal. It's just not stated one way or the other how that would be done.
So it's definitely in the road.
And it could
That
be
is in the
some
road, yep.
hoe ram or other way of tipping could be part of it.
That's within the
They
road.
didn't wanna, I remember they didn't wanna commit just whole ramming it.
Right.
If it can't get done, then not done.
Right, I think it's a decision to be
It's hard
made
rock.
when they get there to see
But
what's
it
going
wasn't a
on.
lot though, right? It wasn't
That's a pretty steep
was it?
incline.
That's a slope, yeah.
Yeah.
No, not on the slope, I mean, under where the road is.
Oh, well, I don't know exactly, but I mean, that ledge likely does continue under with a certain amount of ground cover.
Yeah. I'm just wondering how deep, is it a 2-foot blast from the current elevation, or is it, 15 foot under the road? Makes a difference.
So I guess the way I look at it is, I don't know if they're going to blast there or not. They've indicated a limit of ledge removal. However, if, the way I look at this plan is, it's up to the contractor to decide based on the condition or what's happening, and that particular plan gives them permission to clear that ledge. And if it's blasting, then it's blasting. If not, it's not.
Yeah, based on the size of that hill, I gotta believe that there would have to be some blasting there.
I
Maybe
think
not all of it, but I don't see how it's avoidable. I don't know if anybody else agrees or disagrees.
I agree.
It's pretty steep and significant.
Yeah, I mean, if they've only got, 6 inches of ledge to take out, that's one thing, but if they've got 2 feet, that's another story, so.
It's much more than 2 feet. I mean, that,
No, but I mean, under the road.
oh, under the road.
Under the road. I mean, somewhere in here is a drawing that has a profile of this road. And it shows the proposed contours and the existing contours. I don't see it. It's
Well,
the long
there are a
skinny
lot
line.
of plants in here. Let me know what that is. So is this a location where you wanna discuss?
Yes.
Okay. You wanna condition area of road that it's going to be, what did you call it?
Oh, Ram.
That's it?
What station were we
Only?
talking about?
I mean, there are
If that's the
limitations.
concern with blasting, is it possible that they could hold ram? I don't know that, I don't know that answer.
I think, I can tell you one thing. A friend of mine built a house here in Wakefield and it's got the same ledge, okay? And he brought a hole ram in thinking that he was gonna hold it.
Yeah,
That's
And he
because-
wore the, you know how it comes down, it's got a long,
Yep.
that part of it that pounds it.
yeah.
He wore it out and he
Really?
couldn't, they had to get, he couldn't do it. The ledge is so hard.
They tried,
He probably
yeah.
didn't have the right tools to do
Right,
it,
right.
but it's,
My neighborhood, they tried doing some hole ramming and they did some, but most of it was blasted.
it's
It's the same ledge. I'm, what, a mile away?
unbelievable, hard stuff.
Yeah, it's extremely hard.
So I would think that, they're gonna, whatever they have, if they move rock, I think they're gonna blast it.
That area for sure that will have some blasting. I don't
Is
see.
there a station 5 or 6 over there anywhere? So
5
that's
and
about
6
the area.
here.
So here's the difference between. And so that looks like quite a bit.
Just finish.
Looks like quite a bit. That's vertical still. On zones, verticals 1 and 10.
Can't read it upside down.
Oh. Mix in there.
But most of that blast area is within the buffer zone.
So,
Oh, yeah.
they've got plenty of room then.
I think that's the,
What does that mean, that claim?
Well, I mean, that's like a 5-foot cut or fill, so they're not gonna hit ledge here. And maybe they don't feel they're gonna get it in. So that may not be.
Under the road.
Yeah. I mean, for what I can see,
Are there any test pits in that area?
Oh, God, I'm sure there are. They have a lot of test pits.
I mean, they have stated they won't use perchlorates or ammonium nitrate type products,
Yep.
but TNT even is toxic to water organisms. Pretty much anything you would blast with is toxic to water organisms. Some worse than others.
Ballpark, how close the closest blasting is to the wetland? to
We
the-
said about 50, 60 feet.
yeah.
The closest ledge to the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking at the MSDS's for all the blasting plan possibilities, they all do say toxic for aquatic organisms.
Do you want that package that they, I have it printed, I just couldn't grab the folder of the blasting material that they most recently sent?
but even they say that it is, right?
Let me grab it anyway.
Is it a short-term effect? I mean, does stuff get diluted into the into the groundwater and disappears, or how does it, or is it?
Or some
What happens?
contaminants that,
I mean, eventually it will dissipate over time, but, you know, the damage may be done.
what were some of the contaminants in the?
Well, they're saying no perchlorates and no ammonium nitrate. But like the boosters are typically TNT. It's like toluene and other types of things of that nature and that. I mean, the EPA states that blasting a rock near wetlands will not only disperse total suspended solids everywhere, but any other chemicals involved in the process will add a negative impact to groundwater hydrology and will reduce the value of wetlands. That's right from the EPA.
Don't forget, the blasting has to
Well,
negatively
that
impact the
could-
wetlands ability
that-
to.
Right,
That's what we're
right.
I missed it, I walked in.
He said the wetlands.
I didn't hear it.
Yeah, so I'll say it again for you.
Blasting.
So Rebecca, right from the EPA.
Yeah.
Blasting of rock near wetlands will not only disperse total suspended solids everywhere and any other chemicals, so in this case, it's ammonia nitrates or any other chemicals involved in the process will add an extra negative impact to groundwater hydrology and will reduce the value of wetlands.
You know something, now you got me thinking about that. It might be important to know whether there's ledge in the roadway because,
You're that much closer if
that
you're
much
blasting.
closer, you're in it's a small wetland. It has a base of water in it that stays there, so it's not gonna dilute. You shouldn't afford it, I don't think, to have those chemicals in there even on a short-term basis,
So you want one?
Agreed.
potentially.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I wanna see how far groundwater is down from the road surface.
I mean, blasting vibrations cause transient, stress waves or shock waves. They're difficult to predict.
Oh,
And can cause impacts to nearby ledge, groundwater, resource areas, and of course, structures.
yeah, that's a good call. That's a good call.
I have, I did that.
I know
Okay.
Scarp Tech mentions close, but.
Or did you let, okay, so this is your test bits. So remember, there's a whole pile of them, so tell me which one you're specifically looking
I
at.
wanna look at the test bits that are close to this one.
So they have, that's one location, tiny document. Just a few pages. This in itself is basically all the trees.
Is there a count?
One tree per page.
That's fine.
There's that, you were saying Scarp Tech report is also in here, all of that's on the stormwater report, so you can, it might be faster if you wanna do it electronically than watching me thumb through 1,500 pages, whatever it may be. There is at some
What are you
point-
looking for, you want me to look for it?
No, that's all right. I know what it looks like, so it's just a matter of me finding it. They have, you're looking for specific test bit information and they have it marked out somewhere.
For bedrock depth, there's profiles and kind of color coded all along,
Oh, they do have that color code.
they do, all along the
That's a
proposed
good one
road.
too. I have that.
They use GPR to try to figure
So,
out.
so what can you say about that area right there? What can you infer from the?
Do we have something with the elevations of that area? To show the incline? I know we did talk about it at one of the meetings.
Obviously,
Do we know what the elevation of that ledge?
Of the ledge?
Yeah,
Oh,
I know it's probably in the, you know
Some other.
what?
Those are the ones that are.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, just let everybody know, it's 8:04, we are still in wetland one.
Yeah, but this is the
I think
biggest
that's the most complicated
one. I
one.
think lots of
Here.
taking on
Yeah.
one and go to the other.
And this is the largest of the wetlands,
Yeah.
probably downstream most wetland.
So it looks like the top of that ledge is 171, and then as you get towards it looks like it's 160. of this road, 159, and then the road itself is down at 129, 128.
Assuming
So
So that's a.
50, what was that? 50 feet of lead?
Yeah,
On
so-
the slope, right,
Up here, so you're at 170 here,
we'll bring it
come
down to
down.
the edge.
Yeah,
Yep,
bring it in here.
159 here.
159.
and then 159 here, and then the road is at 128.
20-something feet. Ledge.
So that's on the slope, pulling the slope back.
Yeah, that's not gonna be whole rammed.
No.
There's no way. Unless somebody disagrees.
Well, keep in mind they're chipping into a slope. Cleaving off the slope.
Yeah. It's too tall though. Jim, do you think that would be whole? Do you think?
How much further away is that slope?
Here are the
than
two
under
test
the,
pits that are close, here are the two test pits that are on that thing.
Yeah.
Tell me about.
6 feet, rock at 6 feet. Rock at,
I'll show you their location. I
5
can
feet.
pull it up too if you
okay,
guys
that
want.
matches this,
How
5,
much
6
do they
feet.
take out, and how much, how low are they at, how much do they have, how much is that?
You have to look at the profile for the utilities,
Oh, sorry, see,
Do
it starts
that.
right out.
but that matches the geophysics that we did. It's tough because that road bobs around, so you have to look at the profile, the elevations of the road. So if you want to go ahead and do that. Look at the green.
So is it likely that it'd be blasting in the road also?
Do we know where the groundwater levels are there?
Well, the groundwater down there is probably the same.
So
Yes.
look at that log and see if it says water, and if there's borings, that might be better.
Yep, that's a different.
What's the wetland at elevation wise?
Elevation on the wetland is like 128,
I don't-
129.
I'll have to
And the road's at
Around
130?
look at their, I'll have to look at what's your
Point.
Yeah, it looks like 132 midpoint.
Mhm.
132 there,
I should have that.
125 here, 124.
Well, these are probably pretty close to the water elevation. If it follows that elevation,
And that's at 129.
129, so.
What do they need for depth for utilities? Below grade?
I forget, there's a section in here that shows you the elevation of all of the,
I mean, if you put a gas line in your yard, you're gonna go down, what, 16 inches, 18 inches? With a load on it?
This report you've got those too.
Yeah.
this is the page of the road. So I always put sections.
Oh, here's.
So it always shows, the drainage starts kind of right in the middle of the. The drain line that, kind of in the middle of what they're gonna do. And beyond that, going up the farm, along the water. Well, this is the drainage plan showing.
Yeah.
Water main, right?
I don't know the size, so we use the water.
With water and sewer.
Now, do you know how deep utilities have to be in a road? Jim, do you know how deep utilities have to be under a road?
The town has a standard that they go by. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And that's what they're adhering to as well. Bill's telling them how deep they're gonna have it.
Okay.
And usually the water's gotta be 4 feet anyways. So,
So they may be dewatering to put the utilities in.
yeah.
Did we even talk about that? I don't think we talked about that.
There's an electric line, those are typically shallow. There's an 8-inch water line.
I know I saw it on
Sorry, wait, wait, wait.
the utility to the road.
Sewer would have to go under the.
Did you look at the roof?
You could probably,
Okay.
And that would typically go right up the middle of the road.
They had,
Or
you know, they had to
just
take the
look at
electric
the
and water
front sheet.
around the chambers.
You looked at the front sheet to see.
Water that's coming down. There's a drain, there's an electric that's skirting everything. Oh, is it?
I think it is.
so we're trying to find out how deep it has to go in order for blasting purposes?
So I mean, my question was, would they have to blast the road to put the utilities in? Because then now we're that much closer to.
Okay, right, as opposed to
wetlands.
56 feet
Right.
closer.
They had a section of this road. that showed all the-
Sewer's coming from the other direction.
Did you try sheet 506?
C 506? Yeah, we saw it.
Sewer.
First roadway is between 118.
To say existing is at 123, and it shows.
An 8-inch water and what's the sewer?
Shows bottom of water line at 118. Existing grade are 124.
And that, and ledge was like 5 feet down or something?
7 feet.
Change.
So wait, where's the,
There'd definitely be ledge removal in the roadway, one way or another.
It's way down
I
here.
don't know exactly where this is, but it's around 5 or 6 feet, which is.
Yes, it says top of
most
water.
That side, and
Water top.
I think that matches what they said. It could be a little bit.
Yeah.
We're gonna be close, we're probably gonna hit it, but I don't think it's gonna be like 5 to 8 feet.
Yeah,
It may on some spots, obviously, it's water, you can't
Right.
it being level.
so there will be ledge removal in the roadway and there'll have to be dewatering if they're done at
It's 113.
13, because
What is 113, what do you say?
That's
the,
for the water line.
the elevation of water line and the wetlands at 130, right?
Okay. The sewer is way deeper.
28?
128.
Yeah, the
And
sewer
the
is
water
deeper.
is at where?
Well, the wetlands at 128. So I'm guessing the groundwater is in the road area. And they're going down 10 feet for the utilities. Right?
Because that sewer is down by 1. Wait, why is there sewer there? Well, that's not the right cross section. That's not the right area. That's not under the road.
Yeah, that's like a typical section.
Ah,
No.
it isn't? It is the right
So
location?
it's not over by Farm Street.
Yeah. That's one of the level spreaders, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta look at that, don't look at that, that's another part of the site. That's on the far eastern part of the site.
Okay.
We don't have electrical.
Those
going
two.
through. So here's one of the units right there. Well, either way, you're down at, say, 131, and ground surface is 138. And then you're down at
131.
say 30. And ground surface is at 135, so.
What does that mean?
It seems to me that they might have to go into local.
Where is the,
Which is what they told us, right?
Yeah.
where's the groundwater relative to where they're gonna be blasting?
Yeah, 128, 129, yeah. All right, so there's gonna be ledge removal in the driveway one way or another. If it's only a little bit, it might be whole rammed. It'd be cheaper.
So the removal, I'm sorry, going back to what we're looking at, the removal, the blasting would cause,
So we're 50 or 60 feet away. A few different potential issues with blasting, right? You could have toxic, chemicals released into the wetlands. You could be compromising the, whatever root structure of remaining trees is there. Transient stress waves could cause other potential issues, cracking open, groundwater issues or whatever. Theoretically could drain a wetland if you cracked, like a glacial basin type wetland. You could fracture that and drain it right out. Or you could add water, you could hit some groundwater and add water.
and how could we condition the activities that wouldn't happen?
Would we put a buffer on where distance away from a wetland that you can't blast?
You could.
Do we
How can you do
know,
that? How can you put a
how-
road in if you need to blast? That's-
and do we know the distance of like how far the chemicals can travel within groundwater or soils or
I
whatever?
mean, they'll be using blasting mats and stuff, but still stuff gets airborne.
We're looking for a record.
Well, I was flipping the pages and I was thinking at the same time, so I actually wasn't really looking at anything. I would just say that, if you were to say that you can't condition this blasting and say that this isn't gonna work for you, it will become your burden to demonstrate how it doesn't meet the act. And basically, you have to say by preponderance of evidence or more likely than not, this is what's going to happen. It's not what could happen, it's what's more likely to happen. So I just want to be clear that if you're going to, anything could happen and we can't operate under all those variables. You have to look at what what you know and say, with this information, this is more likely than not going to happen. And if that's the case, this results in a negative impact. So what were we discussing earlier? So I'm just being cautious about saying potential blasting could drain out the wetland, or any of those things, because it really has to be more likely than not going to happen.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm not sure that it's a particularly strong argument to say, well, any of these things could happen. Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I just want you guys to get really precise and ensure that when the issues that you have, you can demonstrate that this is likely going to happen. And
I mean-
this.
I think there's enough information out there, just by looking at it, that shows that blasting resulting in the alteration of groundwater patterns and supplies to resource areas.
Can we say that in this case? In this case, you think that's gonna happen?
You would have to say that blasting in that location is more
Yeah.
likely than not going to alter the groundwater that is currently supplying that wetland. You would have to admit
That's
that.
a tough one.
Is it also fair to say that
It is
blasting that close will leave some trace chemicals or whatever it is they're using to blast that would end up working their way
It'd be
in?
hard to prove. I know that Scarp Tech did provide some potential problems, right?
Yeah.
Jimmy, you know,
Yeah.
trees within 15 feet away
Right.
from the blast, stuff like that. I don't think he ever said there's a major concern for X, Y. Did he? I mean, I don't know.
I'm sure that's a concern every time.
Yeah, well, there's a
It's a
company
reasonable
language,
concern.
but I don't think it was,
You know?
you know.
It's
you
kind of like
should
some
really
trees
be
are
careful.
hazardous, no
He
kidding.
said you're gonna have to adjust your spacing and your charges
there's
and
a
your
lot-
depths by rock type.
Yeah, and there's a lot
But he
to
didn't
that.
say you can't, really shouldn't do this because you have a high potential of altering water.
Right.
And a rock guy would know about the water, about, you know, veins
Yeah.
and faults and all that jazz.
I mean, as good as they are, it's not a truly exact science.
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not.
You are letting explosives go,
Yeah,
all right?
absolutely, but
No.
All I'm saying is then it switches
Yeah.
to
Burden
being
switches.
your
Yeah.
burden to demonstrate that this is more likely than not only going to happen, but also a result.
Right?
Okay. I just wanna keep you guys right on that.
Just nobody knows, right?
So
Until it happens, nobody knows, for sure. You know? Matt, have you had, I guess, hearings or notice of intents where blasting occurred that did create some unexpected issues?
I only have anecdotal things long ago, so no direct experience with that.
Okay. I mean, I know I said it multiple times, but I've experienced blasting damage myself. And the blasting was more than 50 feet away. And I'm on ledge, my house is on ledge, the other house is on ledge. And there's transient shock waves, you know, the day of blasting. Ceiling cracks, wall cracks, foundation cracks.
Well, you know, these guys, they kept saying that these are the best in the country as far as blasting goes. I mean, I know there's a lot they can do. They change the timing between charges and, I mean, all kinds of stuff they do to control the blast, so.
I can confirm that they're a good outfit in that role. Worked with them before. I'm not saying that they won't make a mistake or do something bad, but I can say they're reputable in the industry. And you can imagine there's lots of guys in the industry throwing a rock in the air.
And I think, didn't they go through a couple of different companies to get quotes and stuff? I know they went through one other company.
They wouldn't answer that for us.
Hmm?
I believe you or someone asked about that and they wouldn't answer anything about the different contractors or the quotes or anything like that.
I think he was trying to get a cost estimate.
Uh,
Wasn't that what it was, Peter? Trying to judge the scope of it based on the cost estimate is what I'm assuming you were getting at.
I think also the ability to not. Certain chemicals who can be.
I mean, it's a wild card no matter how you
mm,
look at it, and I think that is the reality of it, but as far as your purposes are concerned,
I mean, it is destruction of buffer zone, right?
Well, I'll tell you what I do think is real is that if those chemicals get into wetland number one, I don't think that wetland has the flushing capabilities to, you know, keep the water as clean as it is right now. I mean, Doug had tested that water, it had just about no in it at all, barely measurable. And should stay that way. I don't know if that's big enough. I don't know how to prove that something went wrong.
Yeah. And really, there's really no easy way to condition that one because it's gonna have to happen in that location for sure. To get that road in.
Yeah.
Now, they have stated they won't use perchlorates or ammonium nitrate and things like that, but again, just about anything that is used is toxic to aquatic life. If it gets in there.
Any substance that's not naturally in that wetland already.
Does that material get released no matter what? Does that get spent? Is it like a chance that gets released, or is it a foregone conclusion that that material just be careful with the with the SDS is, because you're not pouring that stuff into the
True.
wetlands. So is that gone, or is there enough that it travels?
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm asking.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's something to consider. Any other points or topics regarding to the blasting in this area? You know, again, it will result in destruction of the buffer zone, and whatever that buffer zone was doing to protect the wetland.
So should we move on to the next activity around wetland one, and about, if any?
Yeah, what other activities are there? There's potential, I believe. Yes. Matt had mentioned what those species were. Some were trees, some were shrubs or bush. Now you gotta think about, are you doing more good or not by removing those invasive species? Usually enough conditioned, you know, leave them or take out certain ones, leave the tree, leave the Norway maples, maybe, but take knotweed or whatever else is there out.
They had just suggested that as further mitigation for work in the buffer zone. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So certainly easily conditioned.
it's work in the buffer zone.
It is.
That's true.
It is. But yeah, you're causing more damage by
By doing it.
doing it or not.
If you, as you say, because there are some large trees there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we think about it, you know, the invasives are closest to the road for the most part, right? So they found a way to get in there very easily, where we don't necessarily see them further up on the project. When you open up that pathway, traffic and everything else, your chances of more invasives getting in are more likely, I would say.
But then choke out what's in that buffer zone and in the wetlands itself.
Right. So do you want to take them out?
Was your point that, well, it's nice to try, that it might only have a marginal beneficial impact to the invasive species or removal?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta look at the pros and cons of it, you know, are you causing more harm by,
Well, even forget about harm for good, but I mean,
Yeah.
so likely, I guess my point is that calibrating the benefit, I mean, you're saying it could be worse off if you take a step back. but-
I'm sure they'd be happy not to do it if we told them not to do it.
yeah, I mean, like, think about if you took down the trees, the Norway maples or whatever, and whatever brush, it may be providing a barrier for other stuff to get in there and travel further up. Maybe, maybe not, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. Most of your invasives are closest to the road, where things can spread much easier, right? You know, in the wind or tract or whatever. As you open this up, the road, you do have more likelihood of things getting further and further up the road, either on vehicles or foot traffic or whatever blowing in the wind.
And also if you have a very thin,
Canopy.
canopy, yeah, area between the work line and the buffer zone, that can only catch, that's not gonna be as conducive to preventing invasives.
Yeah, think about a lawn, right? A healthy lawn chokes out weeds. Not a healthy lawn allows weeds to spread.
It says in their management plan that the species and quantity of plantings within the management areas are indicated on the project landscaping plans. You want to flip to the landscape?
So there's a legend on the front.
They have it.
It's all,
I can read it too.
yeah.
So it says,
Landscape.
What do we want,
Let's
the
see,
details?
L601.
How about the planting plan? Do you want planting or
Kind of
L601 landscape details? Oh, she said 601?
No, I said, we can start looking at 501 and see, and keep on going.
Called out moist.
501, right here.
Look at that.
Hey, that says utility.
It says shrubs and vines will be hand pulled or dug up with a shovel,
Just looking at this, moist, I don't think.
so the entire crown is removed. Norway maple trees and large shrubs. Can be cut to the ground with a chainsaw or handsaw. And plants or limbs that bury their seeds before they go. So by hand.
All right. From invasive,
Invasive species.
Yeah. That's pretty,
Do you have it?
Just trying to.
Oh, there it is, perfect. Yeah.
Minor.
So there's your numbers and types.
So. That,
Okay, so
Yeah,
the
so I
question
could
is
show
what,
you
do you wanna take them out or you don't wanna take them out?
So there's removed out of, this is the one next to the road, right?
Combination of the
Yeah.
pollution.
It is.
no, I know.
So they're taking out,
Planting area one, is that planting area one?
second.
It's planting, yes, I'm sorry, yes, it is the same, sorry, you're right, sorry.
So they're taking out of that area 19 witch hazel, wait, invasive species management. No, that's, they're,
Planting, oh, no, this is, yeah, because this is the planting schedule, not the, there it is. We accidentally muted there. We're
They
back.
also did geophysics here, they used equipment actually below ground.
So, I'm sorry, so back to removing invasive species and whether we want to condition what they remove?
This is actually.
we could. So if, I guess my point was, if we have canopy, if there are trees potentially that are invasive, maybe we would condition those be left, but the vines and brush be removed possibly, because instead of losing canopy,
So why would you not wanna take them out? I don't
Sorry, I
get.
look at that.
because you'd be potentially causing more loss of canopy.
So,
Pulling out
Oh,
big
from
trees.
I'll have
the,
to look at it.
because
Because they do all
aren't they vines on the trees?
It could also be trees.
Oh, cause they're invasive,
Yes,
they're invasive category, oh,
yes.
okay.
So I'm just saying that that would be something that would be
I didn't know there's any trees over there.
conditionable.
There are trees there, right, Rebecca?
I don't remember specifically, so
Okay, that's good.
yeah, I don't,
We don't know,
I'm not sure.
we don't know.
Yeah, we would need an invasive species management plan, which we don't have.
You were saying one that identified specifically, but I mean, they're not gonna identify things like bittersweet. You know
Yeah,
what I mean, so it would just be, I think they just put as a general, these are all the things that we found. They're invasive and we're going to remove them and would replant with these instead.
yeah, but again, we'd have to be careful if we're telling them trees would be coming down that are invasive trees, and we cause a loss of canopy by doing that too.
Well, I mean, probably if that were the only loss of canopy along this is a pretty big wetland.
Right.
So if you were only losing something within invasive species management area, I would definitely think it's a plus.
Providing there's
You
native species
Well, yeah,
filling in the
they're
gap,
They're
yeah.
gonna put in.
Right, no, that's gonna
But
happen.
already, I mean, already, say there's red maples and Norway maples, and they just want to take out the Norways, but there's enough red to provide the
I
canopy,
see what you're saying, yeah.
then go ahead, take care of it.
Well,
Just have to be
invasive
careful.
trees aren't a bad thing, are they?
In a whole, yes.
I mean, how,
In aggregate, yes.
Depends how you look at it. You could say any invasives may not be a bad thing if it's providing ground cover or food or whatever, but
I think when invasives are bad, when they outcompete and
Yeah.
replace.
Right, and they kill the other.
That's pretty, that's the idea, you know, we've all seen that.
yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of landscaped plants that people have in their yards that are invasive.
Yeah.
Burning bushes are invasive,
Yeah, I got
you
you.
know,
What'd you say?
burning bushes.
Oh, yeah, I
I
don't think
mean,
they sell those anymore.
and almost everybody has them. They were standard landscape stock item, but two in the front,
Wait, what are they
burning bush.
Burning?
Burning bush, that beautiful red leaf in the fall.
again? Okay, I don't know any of those.
Kevin has a few of them, like it's.
They have that other, what, there's the, what, barberry, is that one that,
Oh,
Japanese barberry is another one that I think, was that landscaping? And what is the one with like the square, oh, we don't want to talk about this right now, it has like the square stem?
Oh.
Knotweed, is that?
No, that's like
Knotweed's
bamboo.
going crazy in places, like, we got it in our
All
neighborhood.
right, we don't have to get off on this,
But
yeah,
yeah.
because this is gonna go forever.
I don't think this is a major thing.
No, I mean, the thing, I'm just saying it's something could be conditioned.
Yes,
We
we
would-
want to
condition
We would want to, know what species are there, and we would want to, partake in the selective process of the removal. So I sound like a lawyer?
We would never say part,
Huh?
no,
Take your lane, Bob.
Never?
never.
Never is an absolute.
All right, shall we move on?
Yeah, to
You
the
guys,
next,
are you
the
guys
next
happy
wetland?
with, wetland conversation?
Any other activities occurring in wetland one? We talked about road, utilities, blasting.
Lighting,
Lighting.
What about the other?
Lighting.
What one? Oh, you got what lighting too, you didn't talk about that.
Oh, lighting. I've just forgotten about lighting.
What did you think about the comment on lighting? It just, I mean, and I can't imagine it should have such a big deal, but,
I mean, the lighting you're using is gonna be a,
that there wasn't responsive to, skies.
Oh, being dark sky compliant
Yes.
versus being wildlife friendly?
Right, that was discussed at one of the commentators, you know, one of the participants made
Yeah.
that comment.
Yeah.
And I guess the question that I have too was also, I mean, this is a school, and so kind of an overlay on all this to me is are there things that we don't really understand? Are there things we don't know about, but for safety or something that would make it,
They did mention that because it's a school, it's a road, they would have to keep some on.
It had automatic, an automatic on off, and then they came on, I think stayed on.
They addressed some of that.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely addressed the hoods and shining it in the right places, and huge backscatter. They address all that stuff, just being.
Well, did we get a response? Did we get a response when we asked the question? Is there anything that would require, for example, that trees be removed 5 feet from a sidewalk so that they're, or something, certain distance from the sidewalk, so that there is open spaces for safety?
Well, I think on the opposite side of the sidewalk is the riprap slope that goes down.
So that's taken care of. I see. So it would make a difference. So that would
Yeah.
not be an issue.
Right, that's the way I look at it. So you would look at from the
Okay.
toe of that slope.
Any light that shouldn't be there obviously is not desirable, right? Certain things are attracted to light, like moths you see go into light. With 3,000 Kelvin, we've always talked about being dark sky compliant and best, in that warm range. There was discussion about it not necessarily being wildlife friendly versus.
Right.
And I don't know about that.
What is the difference between dark sky and wildlife?
I mean, everything, we had that
Presentation.
seminar presentation, where they talked specifically about lighting and near resource areas and dark sky compliance and being in that 3,000 Kelvin range to give you the, that softer, natural, as opposed to the blue LED.
Project complied with.
Project complied with that and the hoods and, all of that and the spacing.
What about that 9,000, whatever it was?
The wavelength,
Like 540 or 590 nanometers.
So what's the deal with that?
I mean, I looked at it, I
That guy seemed to
hadn't
be
heard that.
adamant about that wavelength being.
That is what it says if you were to look online, because I didn't know about it, so I looked.
It is what does it say?
That is what is considered wildlife friendly.
Which is something you could condition. But the other thing to think of is the light cycle, because everything that's living within that wetland is used to like that day-night schedule, having light certain times and not others. And I mean, the canopy is gonna affect that lighting that it's getting already as well.
Did they
So
do
you'd
that
have to-
also?
And that would be on all night then, right?
But didn't they do that like?
Well,
they did, they showed the scatter diagram with the
We
light.
have that.
Yeah, but it showed it like almost nothing. in the
Correct.
plans, Right?
Yeah, correct.
Oh, did,
Yeah, it was very directional and shielded from the backside.
that is true.
I mean, you could condition that they go for that 540 90, I don't know the exact number, I'll get it though. Nanometer lighting, and then in the event that they're unsuccessful or something, they could come back to the commission and show them, like, provide some type of thing, this is what we're actually getting, and then it'd have to be approved by you guys at the time.
I tell you, that guy was very persuasive for me. I was ready to go right along with what he said. So it sounded like he knew exactly what he was talking about. And it was credible. So, I think that you should go with the 9,000,
I know what you're saying. Definitely not 9,000.
whatever, 900.
I'm not sure it's
I don't know
9,000.
what the.
That's not a bright light.
I know what you're.
And I can't believe that they can't find it.
I don't know.
You can find anything.
It is 590 nanometers,
Huh?
590.
Okay.
I still think if they're leaving them on all night though, that's gonna affect the wetlands. Could we?
Were they putting dimmers on the other ones?
No, I think that was talked about at some point, but I don't think they landed there. They were, the answer that I remember was they'd have to talk to security about video footage and come back and figure out what that
Oh.
needs to be. But I don't think we ever
So those other
looked back
issues.
to any of that.
So,
'Cause ideally, you'd wanna turn off or at least very dim lights near those areas at night.
yeah, here's a blurb about that. So it's critical to use wavelengths of 590 nanometers for wildlife-friendly lighting, since this is a wavelength that is not visible to animals affected by light pollution. Humans can see wavelengths between 400 and 750 nanometers.
So if they can't see it, then theoretically you can leave it on all night and
Right.
it's not gonna have an impact, so maybe that's the solution.
It's certain animals.
As much, no? You don't think of it.
So the.
It might be the best we
No,
got.
Yeah.
Say again?
No, I'm not, I don't know that information, but, just point out that that's a concern about impact to wildlife as opposed to the capacity of the.
Of the wetlands.
It's
to
true.
Provide.
Bringing it back.
That's true. That's a good point. It's,
Wouldn't the plants, the vegetation within the wetlands also be affected? No?
That would be science I'm not familiar with, not to say it's true or untrue.
So does it affect like salamanders as well as like coyotes? I mean, is it,
But that's not the issue. The issue is not if it affects wildlife. The issue is it affects the
I know, but I
the
just
wetlands.
asked.
Okay, I'm sorry.
What are you trying to get
You
some?
wanna go to the, you wanna go to the,
Okay, let's.
so it's
now
not,
go
so
to the second video?
it's not an impact to the
I think
wetland,
we
to
have.
the resource area.
I think we have to move on. Yep. So are we on to wetland number 2?
Non-jurisdictional.
Then wetland
3.
3, all right, let's go to 3.
All right, yeah, it's,
One last With all, with the
8:45.
plantings that they're putting in, are we going to include no pesticide use and all that kind of stuff too?
All of your conditions apply to your buffer zone. I think your standard condition has a. Say again? Well, your standard conditions have a condition regarding fertilizer use.
Yeah, based on manufacturer's recommended rates and all of that. Doesn't mean it gets followed like anything else.
Let's take a peek at wetland 3 on this.
Moving on. Should I have more coffee?
All right,
Fertilizer should be used with all pesticides.
No, come on.
No, I just lost the screen.
Oh, my computer's closed? Sorry.
Preferred cameras,
You can't trust me with these things.
They're still on.
okay.
they were still on.
Thank you. Perfect. Good.
We can
I
do
can
it.
stop sharing.
Can you move the book off? I'm sorry.
Too many pieces.
I know.
Oh, you need a big desk to sort this out.
A plan showing wetland 3.
I don't know that we're still connected. Connecting to Zoom rooms. All right, now we're back.
Too far in.
Did you pause me?
No, you disconnected somehow.
Bordering vegetated wetland. Yep, I'm sorry, yep, that's it. That's it, yes, that's it, you're right. That is it.
Okay, you have it?
We have it.
All right, so
2 minutes.
wetland 3 consists of BVW and bank. Existing conditions are bordering vegetated wetland is characterized as forested wetland surrounded by a white pine oak forest upland. Steep slopes are located to the north and east of the wetland. An area of dense trees is located to the northeast of the BVW. There's a slight rise in grade between wetland 3 and 3A, thereby separating 3A. This wetland receives overland flow from upland areas, as well as from wetland 4. Inlet bank is present along the intermittent stream, leaving wetland 3. The activities proposed in this area, and let's see, includes a driveway, sidewalk, riprap, slopes, lighting. A portion of the driveway sidewalk lights will be located within 25 feet of the BVW. The retaining wall will be located approximately 10 feet, and limit of work extends to the BVW. The project also includes the installation of a culvert to cross the stream. The stream crossing includes the installation of a precast concrete 3-sided box culvert installed over the channel. The culvert will measure 15 feet wide, 5 to 7 feet tall, and 60 feet long. Both temporary and permanent impacts will result from this project. So there is an alteration to bank. Notice of intent states a loss of 7 linear feet of bank. LEC submitted a letter on January 12th 2023 documenting compliance with performance standards for bank. This letter does not address temporary or construction-related impacts. So the question is, does the proposed project contribute to the bank's ability to protect the interest? LEC does state that the project meets the stream crossing standards, therefore presumed to meet other performance standards. Does this project meet the stream crossing standards?
We got two things here. You've got, you've got
Bank.
bank, which is a direct alteration, and then you've got buffer zone BBW. We'll just pick one first.
Bank.
Good choice. So then I would just go through, so basically, I think what was written in that letter was that culvert met stream crossing standards, therefore it is presumed that it met all of the performance standards for bank. So I think that you need to go through the stream crossing standards. Oh, yeah, well, if I could, it says I've started. Bob, do you have to do anything to,
Yeah, hang on, let's try.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did ignore you, didn't
I think you're okay to share.
I? I'm,
She already has, she started screen sharing.
again,
Did you select the image?
I did. I don't have to. It's fine. Try something else.
What if you close it and redo it? Or stop sharing?
Try sharing something else.
While Rebecca's doing that, I can read the preamble for bank. All right. Banks are likely to be significant to public or private water supplies, to groundwater supplies, to flood control, to storm damage prevention, to the prevention of pollution, and to the protection of fisheries and wildlife habitat. Where banks are composed of concrete, asphalt, or other artificial impervious material, said banks are likely to be significant to flood control and storm damage prevention. Banks are areas where groundwater discharges to the surface and where, under some circumstances, surface water recharges to groundwater. Where banks are partially or totally vegetated, the vegetation serves to maintain the bank's stability, which in turn protects water quality by reducing erosion and siltation. Banks may also provide shade.
Sorry.
Yep. Okay. Banks may also provide shade that moderates water temperature as well as creating habitat, escape cover and food, all of which is significant to the protection of fisheries. Banks which drop off quickly or overhang the water's edge often contain numerous undercuts, which are favorite hiding spots for important game species, such as largemouth bats. That's a preamble for bank.
Do we know during construction? That's weird. Do we know during construction how they're gonna treat that, how they're gonna get over it?
Is there a temporary bridge? Or something spanning? Or is that,
I don't remember seeing anything on it, but I do remember them saying that. Structure or something, but it has, whatever it is, it would have to be strong enough to hold those
Big trucks?
yeah,
gargantuan
yeah,
trucks.
dump trucks and, yeah.
Where the heck?
I wonder how much one of those weighs.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
I mean, there's probably gonna be logging trucks coming out of there and so certainly have to support,
Setting up there somewhere
yeah.
with outriggers and. trying to
I lost
reset
track, I don't
that.
even know if it's.
Yeah, so we'll certainly have to support
I downloaded
heavy equipment.
So you'd have to condition putting in some sort of temporary bridge structure that could hold them.
Unless they're intending to drop the culvert in and not even have a temporary, drop the culvert and then work their way up over.
But can we go back to see if they meet the stream crossing standards for,
Yeah.
even for the permanent one?
So the bank is what we're talking about, the Resource Areas Bank. And there is a slight alteration to that.
And how much bank did you have?
Um, permanent loss of 7 linear feet.
The what?
Okay, so
That's what, do you see me clicking on it here?
No.
I know, but I think you did it previously, and I thought it was really helpful.
No, that's what I'm trying to put up there, but it's just, I'll try something else. So you can't trust me with these things.
I don't think it's you.
Thank you.
You still trying to share?
Yeah. You guys just carry on while I sort this out.
From Mass Stream Crossing Standards, the choice for a crossing design will depend in part on whether a stream has statewide or regional significance for landscape level connectedness or provides critical habitat for rare or endangered species. The biomap identifies areas for biodiversity conservation and allows local groups to proactively identify conservation targets within their jurisdiction. So I got
So,
biomap.
Rebecca, is the bank that they're talking about now, or that culvert that they're putting in, that's the one that had the stream on it? Does it have-
I'm so sorry, what?
The culvert that we're talking about now, that's going where there was actually the stream, we had the video of the stream, is that correct?
Yeah, so there's the stream crossing, they're putting the culvert,
So-
the stream crossing.
And you come up with only 7 feet of bank?
That is what was written in the notice of intent.
Permanent plus.
Because it spans over the bank. The edges,
Yeah. The edges span across 90 degrees to the road, right? Or some angle to the road. I mean, I thought it was like 60 feet long.
the dimensions are on there.
Yeah, 60 feet by 5 to 7 feet height.
So I'm thinking, why is it 120 feet of bank?
15 feet wide, 5 to 7 feet tall, and 70 feet long. Yeah, I don't know why it's not working.
No, I'm all the way off. How'd you guys go through the stream crossing standards on?
I can go over those if you want. So type of crossing, so everything's broken down between general and optional. So type of crossing, bridges, 3-sided boxes, culverts, open bottom culverts.
But should we talk about which ones we're using? Which ones are triggered? That the optimum are triggered, right? Is that what you're reading?
Yes.
Sorry.
Optimal would be a bridge. If bent it said not really applicable, okay, it's on the sheet.
Yeah. Well, if you're going by that and by what's in the stream crossing standards in the target, conservation targets, it references biomap, which when you pull it up has that whole area is both core habitat and critical natural landscape, which means it would hit the optimum, which is use a bridge.
It's also shown on the habitat of potential regional or statewide importance town of Wakefield map to show that it's a habitat of potential regional or statewide importance, in addition to the biomap. So it's clear that the optimum standards are triggered.
Required.
Yeah, since the area is shown on both maps, it is considered an area of statewide or regional significance and thus should meet the optimum standards for stream crossings. So does it meet the optimum an optimum would need a bridge based on the stream crossing standards.
And this does not have a bridge.
No, this is a culvert, three-sided.
I don't think we looked at the fact that the optical is required. Yeah,
Three-sided box culvert.
so therefore it doesn't meet the steam crossing standards, therefore it doesn't meet any, the performance standards. Because this is a direct alteration of a protected area as opposed to work in the buffer zone. So this does not meet the performance standards, because it's not a bridge.
Yeah, that would seem to be. Rebecca, you got any more flavor to that?
Nope, I think that's it. So, one of the, documents by LEC and in the regs says that if you meet the Massachusetts stream crossing standards, you're presumed to meet the performance standards. And then the stream crossing standards in the handbook, it says you have two choices. You are either required to do the standard optimum, and then,
We just said that.
okay, so I'm just saying exactly what you just said.
I'm sorry, but you're saying it better.
Well, whatever you said.
Right, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so then they indicate under the section of conservation targets that there's those two paragraphs that talk about how to determine if it's regionally significant. There's that map. And then if you look at that map, that area is indicated, so you can assume that it's regionally significant, because that's what's referenced. And pulling that all the way back to the streams crossing standards, they should be meeting the optimum standards.
What are the options?
And then there's
Using a bridge.
choices. But there's something else.
8-foot clearance too.
There's a height requirement, because they met the 1.2 bank full width, so they met that width
They
requirement.
met the crossing span.
A bridge can be anything, can it? Or a bridge is gonna have a bank underneath it, is that the difference? No, a bridge would have a bank anyway.
Well, the stream would just have.
How does that work?
Well, a bridge would span over the banks.
The three-sided culvert's gonna span 15 feet.
It's a replacement of the bank. It's a replacement of the
It's
stream.
replacement.
You're losing bank.
You're altering the entire stream. If you span it, you just go over it, you're not doing anything. Right?
Okay, but if you did nothing, I still think there's support on both sides. I guess that's what I'm coming up with. You have dirt there or you have concrete, it's still, okay.
No, you traverse without impacting bank with a bridge.
Is it because it's a natural bank versus a culvert versus concrete pipe? Is that the difference?
Well, with a culvert, you're creating a chamber, a box, you're compartmentalizing or narrowing.
But you could probably do the same thing with, a bridge could be anything though. A bridge could be pre-stressed, members that span the whole thing, that lays on the ground, could be. That's what you're saying is you can't touch the ground underneath the bridge, right? That has to be.
Well, that's the advantage of the bridge, is that you're not touching the bank.
Bridges are preferred over open bottom culverts because they can be installed with minimal impact to the stream channel and
Right.
provide more headroom for wildlife.
Okay, so they're gonna just take these pre-stressed chamber, members and they're gonna lay them down and there's a bridge.
Potentially, we don't know how they're gonna construct it.
Well, if there's footings on either side.
Yeah.
If there's abutments.
Yeah.
It's different
But they
than
will-
ripping over.
Right, but they wouldn't have to be right up against the edge of the bank, they could be back further.
Right,
And then there's the point.
right, and lay down.
It's not what they're
Okay,
providing.
but
Right.
I'm just trying to understand.
But it also says a minimum height of 8 feet.
Yeah.
This is proposing 5 to 7 with the box culvert. We're not sure exactly what the height will be, but either way, it's not beating the 8.
Did they measure that from the
I had
inside?
asked
or-
that at some point. For the height.
What's the question,
Did
Jim?
they measure it from the bottom of the bridge to the top of the bridge? I mean, from the bottom of the stream to the top of the bridge or the underside of the bridge? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know, you're not gonna pick up a foot or so, right? You're deficient by
Well, the stream
almost 2 feet.
changes, right? That changes, so.
We're at 9:05, by the way. I'm gonna take a quick break.
They have a definition of a bridge.
Try not to drink my drink, but
Is there a definition of a bridge of that, Rebecca?
I don't recall the definition of a bridge, however.
I mean, what's the reason for the height requirement?
For wildlife passage.
Yeah.
I know, but that, we're not gonna have a moose going through
How do you know that?
there. I haven't seen it.
Not a deer,
You might get a bear, because they are
deer,
occasional bears.
but
They'll
deer,
be migrating because of climate chaos. They go where they want.
I know, but. you know,
They don't listen to us or,
we don't
our
have
invisible
polar bears
line.
down here either, so.
but so you're questioning the standards, but the standards are the standards.
I'm questioning I'm just asking the question, why is it that you have to go to 8 feet? What is it that trying to, maybe it's because that accommodates anything that we wanna go through there and we don't have to decide for a project.
But is that our question to ask? I know, you're just trying to understand it intellectually?
Be careful now.
But that's the requirement, I don't know. I'm not sure why you need to go.
As used in this document, a bridge is a bottomless structure erected over a river or stream to provide passage from one bank to
A
another.
bottomless structure.
In this document, bridges are grouped under the term spans along arch and open bottom. That doesn't help you, but
Yeah.
it goes over it like a bridge does.
Yeah.
Like
Bridge is like a bridge.
It's starting to get
is
a
that
little
anything
better.
like a bridge?
We're a little bit punchy here now.
Where we at?
I'm waiting for you to understand bridge.
Waiting for Bob.
No, I think you don't understand a bridge, right? That's right. Again, the point being, this is not a bridge, and a bridge is required.
So there,
Yeah, but,
you definitely drew the correlation of regional statewide importance to the situation, right?
It's a map.
That's
I
definitely.
can show it to you.
No, I believe you.
I got it
just wanna
open.
make sure,
I don't mind, I like people to double check.
that's all. Cause it's a big difference.
It'd be so cool if I could share it on the screen.
This is habitat of potential regional or statewide importance specifically for the town of Wakefield.
And where is
It's
the
the one
can
that's-
you just touch your,
You betcha.
where this wetland is? And what about, is the other wetland one in that area too?
I think it covers all of it, because I've got it zoomed in over here.
But it's only because the stream crossing is that big, right?
Sorry.
It's only because it's a stream crossing that we're looking at this area right
But I
now.
just wanna make sure that. Where would you find that? There's no biomap, pre-biomap.
where does it say?
This isn't the biomap.
Oh.
This
Yeah,
is
it's
what's
not- yeah.
Specifically referenced in the handbook. Thank you,
Oh,
Matt.
okay.
Can I,
I looked
does
again.
that, so wetland number one is encompassed? I don't wanna go back, but I just wanna make sure that I have it. I mean, one of the things we
I mean,
take care
the
of.
reason why we built this map is for the stream crossing standards,
Right, but we're only looking at it because of the stream crossing standards, Peter.
But there's a,
which there isn't one, but I am happy to look at that.
Here, and this is where that road would come out to, so. wetland one, right
Yeah,
there.
right by June Circle, yeah. And the only reason I say that is because we get a lot of these projects that are in, redevelopments or
Yeah.
that have been disturbed, and this is, I think it's not insignificant that we're dealing totally undisturbed.
that's part of why it's coded as such.
Right.
So the applicant must demonstrate to the satisfaction of the issuing authority that the crossing complies with the Massachusetts stream crossing standards to the maximum extent practicable.
That's in the regs
Under bank.
right.
Okay.
That gives you some flexibility.
What are you talking about? Literally, what are you talking about?
Maximum extent possible?
No, I can't do a
Are you
bridge.
joking or not?
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm out of here. Too late for me.
That's awesome.
Well, we don't know, right? It wasn't considered, it wasn't brought, it wasn't.
What's before us is not a bridge, that we know.
Yeah.
No, we're just saying practical.
Their language was 3 sidewalks though.
Right.
Okay. I wouldn't recommend conditioning something to meet standards. I wouldn't recommend that.
No.
So let's just move on from that.
I agree, we should move on.
Okay, so now we're gonna talk about the, wetlands.
That's true.
Yeah, we were talking just
Wish I could
banks.
choose.
We're gonna talk about the wetland.
Right on.
I also wanna know where can we also talk about, well, we're gonna talk about obviously, where the blasting, how close the blasting is to the. We have
I
that.
don't think.
Not really this one.
Yeah, there isn't.
It is the maximum extent of their ledge clearing is right over at the very extent of the 100-foot mark. I don't think blasting would apply in this one.
Okay,
Rise.
Okay, so that's good.
More of a fill than anything.
okay, so now.
That
we're
was the
just-
blasting concern, that one area.
So now we're just at the point where again, on the southern side of the wetland. The limit of work actually touches the wetland.
I'm hoping that's me.
This meeting is being recorded.
That's you.
We'll try this all over again. I wouldn't wait for me. This might take a second.
Right, so the activities in the buffer zone here, right, are the driveway installation, there's a sidewalk, there's riprap slopes, and there's lighting, right?
Let me get.
All right, so there's 56,000 square feet of buffer zone to wetland 3. Almost 7,000 are within the 25-foot. 3,000 square feet within 25 of impervious. Almost 4,000 square feet within 25 of pervious, which is riprap slope, invasive species management.
That 52% will be altered, is that the?
Yeah, and of which almost 14,500 square feet will be new impervious area within that buffer zone. You look at the wing walls. You know, large mammal have difficulty traveling through there potentially. And you are channeling or forcing, the wildlife to go through that one spot. Otherwise they're going over the road. So the height, five might be, just not tall enough. I mean, it needs to be 8 for crossing standards.
So you're back to the stream crossing.
Yeah, I'm just bouncing around, I guess.
Well, there was a second crossing, wasn't
There is a smaller
The
crossing,
second one is smaller,
yeah.
that wasn't required,
So that's not a stream crossing, that's specifically.
that's just,
wildlife.
yes.
There will be that, that barrier
Didn't take long.
along the sides.
Okay.
Keep in mind that over to the right there, that red building.
It's not there anymore.
Therefore, the surrounding yellow is not part of the project any longer. That just gives.
That was the maintenance shed that got moved over.
Right, we just eliminated that, so that grading, that impervious around it would also be eliminated. I'm sorry, that pervious around it. What did I say, is that what I said?
I think so.
Okay.
So blue is the road.
Blue is the road.
What is that 13,430
And what is the?
rhombus or trapezoid?
5-foot buffer.
Sorry, there were two people.
Oh.
Right, Bob was talking first.
Oh. What is that, what is that?
So so that's the area of invasive species management again?
Okay,
And then your gray, similar to the other drawing, was the 25. And the outer, which doesn't appear gray on this one, but lighter.
Yeah, right,
Yeah, the outer ring is your 100.
the,
So,
And so the dotted line, that is the dotted line where the gray, obviously is where if there was a true 25-foot buffer, it would be that inside that dotted line, that initial dotted line.
inside the gray.
No.
Solid black line.
Saying that I'm saying.
Oh, that, I'm sorry,
Everything
sorry.
within that line would be, everything within this
I'm sorry, yes, sorry.
would be 25.
So what's the gray, Rebecca?
The 25 that's unaltered.
Yeah, so the point that I'm saying is if you had this 25-foot buffer zone.
Yes, I'm sorry, you wouldn't have the road, right,
Part would be, this whole part
Yes.
is within the, the whole road is within.
right, wouldn't be that, right, I know, I'm sorry.
And the limit of work goes, actually almost touches the wetland itself. I mean, so this is one that,
It's
again,
closer.
it's the southern, I'm gonna stress the southern exposure. But this is one where there's a significant, this is one where even the 25, there's.
Percentage wise, it's a higher impact of buffer zone than the first one.
Well, the road goes right, this is one where the road,
It's right next to it.
the road is right next to
you
it.
know what? I'm going to not use this plan right now. Hold on, I'm gonna switch it because this is what was in the NOI and it's fabulous for the drawings that you just had up there, but this plan is actually slightly different.
Oh.
Well, that maintenance shed isn't there.
Yeah, isn't that supposed to be
it's gone.
forest area?
It is, yeah.
So how does that road wrap into that thing?
I'll show you in a second.
Right.
But everything takes me 100,000 years. It's down the bottom left corner. I'm just showing you the road, the new configuration.
Yes, that's great, thank you, Rebecca.
How is that different?
Isn't to the shed anymore.
Building's gone.
All right.
road-
Yeah,
you just
before you had that shed coming out to here
Okay.
with the pervious area up to here.
They're
So
intersecting.
now it's not, now it's back
Yeah.
here again.
I guess my focus has been more on the
Yeah, over here, right.
south part of, to the south,
I
and
thought
not
it
so much.
reduce the buffer zone impact.
Did someone say that?
I know, I have to say, it's very strange.
Where did that come from?
So that shows the BBW, but not the 25-foot buffer zone. But-
Yeah, it's there, it's just not.
Can you see it? Okay.
It's easier to see it from the top and then you can follow it around.
Right.
I see it. On top of that, I do see it. Yeah.
And this, when we did the site walk, there's a weird bump right here in elevation.
I was told I have to close down this building.
Ooh, what time?
Okay, now. So I just got the call from my boss.
Okay.
Sorry. I have to close down another building after this, so.
9:20.
You guys decide how you're gonna wrap it up.
So yeah, we're only at wetland 3. Didn't quite finish wetland 3. We did talk about the canopy loss here, and the stream crossing. We're gonna have to have a second meeting, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll make better, speed, going forward. But still, I don't know how much time we're gonna need to get through it. Well, let's see what Rebecca can schedule and how soon she can schedule.
Do we have time scheduled for this at all tomorrow?
No.
No, there's nothing right now in the schedule for it.
But no, I mean,
Yeah,
It has to be, yeah,
That's only 48 hours notice.
yeah, 40-hour notice. And,
Rebecca said she couldn't do
She's-
25 or 26.
right, she's pretty much tied up the rest of this week. It most likely will have to be next week. Check with her schedule, but possibly next Tuesday. Okay, Rebecca, what's your schedule looking like for part 2?
Oh, sorry, Missy. I am very, if you're speaking about it like evening or considering evening hours, I am very limited. And I think I let you guys
Yeah.
know just for all the senior activities that are currently happening,
Yeah.
graduating, so.
What do you have for,
Wednesday and Thursday of this week, and next week I have. I don't remember, I have Wednesday, Thursday again.
Tuesday work next
Oh,
week?
no, Thursday and yeah, I could do Tuesday next week.
Let's just plan on next Tuesday.
Can't wait.
Tuesday at 7 or 6:30 or whatever you want, I'll do whatever you want.
6:30 is tough.
We can do 7.
Probably Teresa and Peter,
Yeah.
6:30
I'll
is
be in
tough.
Alaska.
Oh, that's right.
But is our end time now for next week?
I'm gonna find out.
Yeah,
I'd rather start at 6:30.
Yeah.
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 But Peter, can you do 6:30? Tuesday, 6:30?
Tuesday, 6:30.
So it's gonna be the same thing again? Here?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we'll continue.
It's easier for you guys, I mean, to
It's
do
much
this.
better, it's
It's-
easier to do this.
yes.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
really hard.
We just didn't know about the timeline.
Make sure that
thing,
they
right?
know that we're in the, you know, that,
Yep.
It's a hybrid.
I will find out all the information regarding building hours.
Yes.
Is there anything additional we should review or consider in the meantime?
That's different than what was already laid out.
No, I just think that going through the process is probably.
One more time now. And do the, think about something.
I mean, unfortunately, I think
You covered it all, right?
you're getting, I mean, some of the wetlands that are located further along, the activity in the buffer zone is pretty minimal.
Yeah, I do think that wetlands 3 is,
Yeah, this.
I think we probably end our discussion at almost at wetlands 3, but, because the other areas are not as.
The vernal pool, what do you mean?
We won't, I don't think we'll need nearly this amount of time to get through the remaining resource areas.
Yeah, I mean,
We spent a lot of time on wetland 1.
it probably has the, well, wet 1 and 3.
Yeah.
That's what I've been using the plan for.
Yep. And after this, we get the vernal pool, I think is next. Or very close to next if it's not. Ba, ba, ba. Series 10. Series 6 with a certified vernal pool,
But that's downstream,
yeah.
sorry, upstream.
Yeah, closer to the school.
Yeah.
Series 7, 8, and then wrap it
I
around
think the only one
9.
over there is that beehive. Remember we were talking about the beehive?
Yeah, that's at
Drywall.
7 or 6.
Yeah, the drive, that's what I mean, and then 7, I think it's just the edge of the track in the buffer zone.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on it, but like I say, I think as you work your way around, I think it's gonna be relatively
Definitely.
quick. I think you guys
Yes.
probably just,
Yeah, it certainly won't take as long to get through the rest of them as it has to get to this point. And we don't have to schedule a duration, we just have to find out about the closure of the building. So we'll plan for 6:30 next Tuesday?
Okay.
Yeah.
So 6:30 next Tuesday, everybody's good, except for Teresa,
I'll
who'll
try,
be vacationing.
I'll try. 24-hour time difference.
All right, so,
And Paul is away, yeah.
yeah, Paul's still away. All right, so would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Everybody in favor of adjourning?
Yes.
The record, everybody's in favor, I also agree. All right, good night, everybody, thank you.